Hey, Monday evening. It's 6 p.m. and it's time for Terry. It's going to sound alarming to some, hopefully anyway, but this will be the final Burns and Holla. We're going to actually be changing the name of the program starting this Wednesday based on some news that broke today. Let's welcome in, though, Terry. Good to see you again, as always.
Always a pleasure, sir.
Let's welcome our guests of the day. Let's start.
Well, you're not going to break the news? I'm going to break in to break the news.
This is tease, man.
What a tease.
This is all about TSL. You gotta eat up those quarter hours. From the Ron and Don show and now ronanddonsitdown.com.
That's right. How's that
no
for
longer
tease?
standing. Yeah.
No.
No, we'll get, Ron Upshaw, always fun to have you on. And from Q13, Simone Del Rosario. This is the first time we've actually spoken to one another. I appreciate you coming on.
All it took was a DM and Twitter.
That's it.
That's right. Wow. Right into your DM.
Needed.
That's when social media works right.
Yeah.
And it's actually, and it helps. This is when isolation is actually working in our favor as well. In that very few people have actual excuses to not do something. There's no pressure to get someone really in studio. We all just come to expect 4 or 5 different squares from people broadcasting remotely. It's made some people's lives probably a little bit easier in the media business, except of course for the tens of thousands who've been laid off.
There's that part.
But I don't want to start morbid. Let's start on an up note. The Seattle Seahawks played their home opener yesterday. Mm-hmm. And as it is right now, Russell Wilson is essentially a perfect quarterback. Terry, what were your how were you feeling watching the Hawks play at CenturyLink when for a little while it didn't seem like this ever would become a reality?
Yeah, it really kind of seems surreal, looking at what we've been facing for the last 6-7 months, being locked down, quarantine, social distancing. I could not figure in my mind how they were possibly going to have a football season, professional or college, with the protocols that have been set in place. But they were somehow able to pull it together for money. But I'm surprised, man, and happy and elated that I get the chance to watch the Hawks do their thing. It was kind of unnerving to watch the CenturyLink field with no fans in it, though.
Yeah, I know everyone likes to lampoon on Chris Collinsworth, but wasn't it kind of feel sort of normal to hear Al Michaels and Chris Collinsworth call a game? It's kind of like,
I love Chris Collinsworth.
Feels like normal. People love to rip him online. They love to rip Collinsworth.
All the broadcasters people hate. I like Joe Buck.
Oh,
I think he's.
Right.
I do.
That line.
Hey, Terry, I wanted to ask you, because you're the only guy that in this group that has played collegiate sports. Can you talk a little bit about how remarkable DK Metcalf is, from even just a physical specimen of a human being to the things that he can do wearing a football uniform and performing against other athletes? I don't know. I've worked for a couple NFL teams. I don't think your average person, your average fan knows what it means to be DK Metcalf.
No, it's because he's supernatural. He's a mutant. He's not normal. What you see with DK Metcalf is not normal. This is a guy that is 6'4", 230 pounds, that runs a 4.4 second 40-yard dash. For those of you who don't understand, that is extremely blazing fast. Like the top 1% of the world runs that fast. And so to be that big and that strong, and he has like 4% body fat.
Well, they showed him in the pregame jumping. His hand was at about 11 feet. Catching a one-handed ball in the end zone. I think people just go, "Oh, it's just an NFL athlete." No, it's not.
He's abnormal, Ron. He's abnormal.
He could catch a field goal.
He could.
They really should put him on one of the posts.
He could.
I do like the fact I'm 6'4" myself. I get nowhere near but I could, if I continue the way that I'm currently living, I could at least match him on 2 stats. I could become 6'4", 240. But I don't think it would be 4% body fat at that point.
Maybe if we go into quarantine again.
But when other professional athletes look at an athlete and they're like, "Whoa," like that's a big deal.
That is a big sign. Simone, have you seen DK Metcalf with the the topless with Pete Carroll.
The woman in the group, if she's seen the topless image.
I'm just curious. I mean, I didn't want.
I saw it and I was attracted for like a minute.
Seriously.
You can appreciate the work that goes into something like that. How's that?
Thank you. That's all I wanted to know. You know.
Hey, I married an athlete, so I appreciate when people work on their craft and their instrument,
so to speak.
And then someone who's about 8 inches shorter, at least, right? How tall is Russell Wilson? 5'8"? Was
probably 5'10".
He's 5'10".
I don't know if he's 5'10". Maybe
I
in
said
his
on a good
cleats.
day,
Yeah.
man.
On a good day. In his cleats.
exactly.
Was again the biggest player on the field, and it's there. Terry, or do you think there should be kind of a different sort of interception category for the one he threw yesterday? I mean, it was almost a perfect pass to Greg Olsen, ends up going for a pick six, but you look at the stat line, it makes it seem like Russell made a mistake when he really didn't, because he hasn't yet.
It should, but unfortunately it doesn't. And it was unfortunate that happened, man. But it'll go down as an interception. It'll go down as one of his passes that didn't get completed. But I mean, the rest of the day was pretty spectacular. You can't discredit anything he did.
Are we not going to talk about the way Belichick wears a mask? Are we just going to let that slide?
I'm trying to remember what he had.
It was upside down the entire game.
Yeah, who pointed it out to me yesterday? It was like, God, there's a character in Blazing Saddles, and his mole is in a different place every time he's on screen. And that's what Belichick's was.
Oh, it was fantastic. I loved it.
Simone, see if you can guess, because I did want to bring up one other Belichick thing, but it has nothing to do with Bill.
Oh, boy.
The mullet. Belichick's
the son.
I guess 2 of Belichick's kids are coaches now, but Steven yesterday had the most spectacular mullet that I've seen. I've seen since their mullets were just kind of commonplace. This thing was beautiful.
I didn't notice the mane. I didn't.
Oh my God. That was the first thing I noticed. People in Boston are probably like, that's my boy down by the harbor. Meet me at Duncan.
He's got a wicked mullet. It's wicked good.
Meet me at Duncan with that wicked mullet.
There is no better year to bring back the mullet. Let's be real.
Yeah.
Who's not having fun with how they look at home at this point?
So I'm completely shocked that a team has not been rocked with COVID yet, because the NFL bubble is not anywhere like the NBA bubble, and you have exponentially more people involved to run an NFL team. I literally agree with Terry. Like, I thought by now we'd be like, well, the Cleveland Browns have shut down with 23 cases of COVID.
Oh, well, hopefully with all of the testing, it's just going to be a couple of people that you can split off to the side, but it's early, right? It takes up to 14 days. That was my first reaction after the first week when there weren't those positive tests was, I don't know, maybe people just haven't started getting those symptoms yet. So fingers crossed it keeps going, but it's been amazing to see what they've been able to pull off.
And I get fooled with the fake crowd sounds. Like I will forget.
I get excited.
Yeah.
Sometimes the guy riding the volume's a little bit heavy on the foot.
I heard he's screaming yesterday, and I was like, "What is that?" And it's like they recorded that, but why?
Well, this is my favorite crowd sound story. The Eagles, the Philadelphia. I'm from the Philly area, so I grew up an Eagles fan, which also means you hate the Eagles as much as anybody, as much as you love the Eagles, and they suck this year. And Carson Wentz the quarterback was having a particularly bad game yesterday, and the person in charge of the recorded crowd noise played booze.
Yes,
I don't think it's going to happen in any other city.
And like in any other stadium, if you pay the $30 to get your photograph placed in your seat, you have a remote control to throw a battery from your house. It's on cell phone. It's the only stadium that allows it.
It's passion, man. It's passion.
Right, passion.
We had the battery incident. We had the Santa incident.
Right.
Where we threw snowballs literally at a man dressed as Santa Claus.
Of course you did.
Which I totally get. It was a crowd full of people who
and
never got the bike
when
they wanted.
Philly won the Super Bowl, the police department greases the telephone poles so that fans cannot climb up the telephone pole and kill themselves.
And actually,
someone is paid to go around and grease the telephone poles in Philly.
That's now like a full-time department of the
While we're having the police stand down in Seattle, they're having the police grease the telephone poles.
I'm the official pole greaser in Philly. That's my
Hey-o!
job.
Well,
Hey.
we were the first stadium, and this was back in Veterans Stadium, the first stadium to have a jail cell to handle the rowdy fans. You don't understand. This might seem like insults to you. These are points of pride for people in Philadelphia.
Yeah. Well, with all the crowd noise, I'm an abused Charger fan myself. And they said everybody's going to have that home crowd noise except the Chargers. They'll always be on the road, no matter if they're playing at home or not.
So did you follow them?
Is there a bigger dump than Veteran Stadium?
I did follow them to LA. I was already out of San Diego by then. I left 16 years ago. It was painful, but I can't hate the team just because I hate the ownership.
Yeah, you can.
Ask any former Sonics fan.
But then what am I left with? Sorry, I mean the Seahawks, absolutely.
Right.
Fan.
What kind of fans are we all here when it comes to watching a game? Because one thing I wouldn't want is what the NBA is doing to ever do in my living room, where they're actually showing people at home in lieu of real fans, just these fan avatars where it's a video of you reacting and everything. Because one, I don't want people to see what my house looks like, and I don't want to have to worry about
broadcast from your house,
right? But I have a lot of control.
Clean that up real quick.
This is a controlled environment.
Okay.
But are we yellers? Are we relaxed? Do you get stressed?
In game 2, I'm nothing. In game 2, I'm just watching the game.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm tracking, and it was an exciting finish.
Yeah,
and all of that, but I'm not too over the top. I did want to ask about what we thought of Cam Newton, because he, of course, an enemy of Seattle from days back. But I think it's remarkable to me when you think about the New England Patriots, and I'm going to throw a little bit of Black Lives Matter in here as well. You have a black quarterback who's not protected the same way that white quarterbacks are. Was beaten to a pulp the past couple of years, never gets a call because he's such a big, strong athlete. And so it was damaged last year, and everybody passes on him. A former MVP, everybody passes on him going, the game passed him by. And Bill Belichick, losing Tom Brady, looks at Cam Newton. He's like, that's my guy. And then he hands him over to an offensive coordinator and says, Tom's gone. Rebuild the entire offense around this guy. I thought it was remarkable. I think Cam Newton showed a lot of poise to say, I'm going to hitch my wagon to a guy that's won that many rings, swallow a little bit of pride. He came in as a backup. Am I right, Terry? He came in as a backup.
Yep.
Do you see those threads combining in the same way that I do?
Absolutely. I think it speaks volumes to a lot of people. It speaks volumes to Robert Kraft for, he's the owner of the New England Patriots, for allowing this thing to go down. Speaks volumes about Belichick and his belief in Cam Newton and what he can do on the football field and what he'll bring to that organization. To put him at the head of, a lot of people don't understand the quarterback becomes the face of an organization, the face of a franchise, good, bad, or indifferent. And they're allowing Cam Newton, with whatever baggage he may have brought to this thing, to be the face of the New England Patriots in Boston, in New England, which is a huge thing. And to like you said, he was a former MVP. The guy has an unbelievable skill set. He has some things that you cannot teach and you cannot coach. You can't coach somebody to be 6'4", 250 pounds, and is strong and physical and can throw a ball like a laser the way that he does. And so I just think it speaks volumes to some of those people that were involved.
I think he showed a lot of humility when I was watching the game yesterday, more than I've seen him when he was playing with the Panthers. He was more about celebrating with his teammates. It wasn't about, look what I did, but it was more of a team approach. And I think when it comes to the Patriots, when they have such a storied presence in the NFL, it's all about success, and it's not about getting too hyped in that moment. It's about the end goal. And I think I see that reflected in how he's playing. I did notice a difference in his demeanor.
And I have a confession to make, because in his first seasons, when he was doing the Superman thing, I was like, get off my lawn, shut up and play, act like you've been in the end zone before. I didn't get it. I was like, what is, I didn't get the swagger. I found it unbecoming of a quarterback in the NFL. And I've come around. I was wrong. Like Cam was expressing himself, and I was old school on that and didn't get it.
Yeah, I think you have to take into consideration where he's been in his life and how he kind of grew up. I think he's always been, even though he was a very good quarterback, people just looked at him as an athlete, as a runner, and he really wanted to stand up and prove himself as a great all-around quarterback. And he's been a champion at every single level, and he's had to step up and answer to naysayers, even though he's been a champion from high school to college to the next college. You know what I'm saying? So I think there's a little bit of swagger that comes with that.
And, a black quarterback just has to run like 3 times before they call him a rushing quarterback.
Right.
Pretty much.
I mean, Robert Griffin didn't rush for that many yards. And I was like, well, this is what happens to rushing quarterbacks. And it basically became a euphemism for black quarterbacks.
Yeah, that's been going on since forever. They'll turn you into a wide receiver quicker than you know it.
But yeah, I am actually surprised, Ron, to hear you say that you were in the act like you've been in the end zone before. Because if I ever got into an NFL end zone, this celebration would never, ever end.
I always liked the Barry Sanders approach. Barry got in the end zone, handed the ball to the ref, and was like, this is where I belong. Like,
what
I'm at
fun
home.
is that?
I just loved it. I love the attitude. I'm old school that way.
Yeah.
Oh, you was about to say something.
Oh, I wanted to know what Zach's dance was. His end zone dance.
Oh, well, I don't know because I've never even been close to one.
Plus, he can't dance.
I cannot dance.
It's not quite the requirement.
What did you do when you got in the end zone in like a Rose Bowl situation, T. Holla?
Well, see, I never did. Let me explain something to you. That's really what I'm going to tell you guys. So my story is I played running back at the University of Washington at the very best time and the very worst time. I played because we had the best running backs in the history of the school there at the exact same time as I was there. Literally 3 of the top 5 played at the same time as me.
Was it Corey Dillon, right?
Corey Dillon.
Napoleon Cobbins.
There you have it. And that's 2 of the 3. And Rashawn Sheehy. Everybody I played with that played in front of me went to the National Football League. So you very rarely got a chance to touch the ball.
But you weren't doing a Superman chest bump when you got in the end zone, were you?
Well, this is what I'm trying to tell you. So I didn't score a touchdown until my 3rd year, till my junior year. And when I did, I lost my mind. I ran through the end zone into the crowd and did the Lambeau leap. I did a Lambeau leap because I was like, I'm probably never gonna get another chance.
Yeah, do it.
Ran through the crowd.
Nice.
Yeah. I would draw probably like 180 yards worth of penalties.
Here's the thing. If I can split hairs on this, the Lambeau leap is you're celebrating with the fans.
Yeah.
The Superman thing is look at me, everybody look how super I am.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a different celebration. I don't have a problem with the Lambeau leap.
I don't know, but you're assuming that these fans love you enough to catch.
That's true.
Like stage diving,
That's true.
Fortunately for me, there wasn't a leap. It was like I just had to run into the crowd. They were right there. Like
right.
I just had a little gate, and I ran up. And for complete transparency, again, I had to wait 3 years. And I ran to the crowd and I said, I told you.
So let me ask you, do you think if you were in a different program where you had been the featured back, that you could have grown into an NFL player by your 3rd and 4th year?
Yeah, I'm 100%. Yeah.
So could you ever consider transferring to, what would be a lesser program that would give you more minutes?
You about to make me tell a secret because that's exactly what I did. I did. I transferred my senior year and I went to Northern Iowa, which is actually a really good program. Program.
Huskies or something?
They are the Panthers.
They're the Panthers.
Panthers.
I was thinking Northern Illinois.
Yeah.
See, I'm endlessly fascinated with that level. I work with a guy that did what you did, but in golf. So he's right. He can see the promised land. And I wonder if it's worse to be that guy than it is to be a guy like me that's like, I played in high school, and it's like, I know that I'm not a professional athlete, but when you're right, when you can taste it, I wonder if it's harder to be that, because that guy than it is to just be an amateur, because he's right. He shot a 59 in a round in competition,
Ooh,
which is insane, and he couldn't make it to the PGA level.
Yeah, well, in my particular situation, it was extremely difficult, to say the least. Let's just say, so my best friend throughout college ended up being a guy that played in the NFL for 15 years. So and he was a super high second round draft pick, first pick in the second round. So I got a chance to experience the NFL up close and personal. Another guy that I was very close with, that I played with in running back in the same position for 2.5 years, was a first round draft pick. So I got to watch people very close to me reach that goal that I wanted to accomplish so badly. And then it just didn't happen for me. So, you know, when you kind of hit that deep depression mode, when that kind of goes down. So that's where I was at the end of my 4th year. And I started selling shoes.
What did you think about going to Canada or going to any other leagues, or did you do any workouts?
So here's the deal. So when I was done, I had offers to go play in Canada. I had offers to go play in the Arena League, and I had offers to go work out as a free agent at some NFL teams. But I was now I feel like I'm having a therapy session, guys. I really went into such a dark place, because I had seen some of my friends like that were with me for the last 4 years had all of a sudden become great NFL prospects. They had agents, they had brand new cars, condos, all that kind of stuff. And I was going to be a free agent that had to go work out and try hard. And I was done. I said, nah, I'm going into the real world. And
were you happy for your friends that made it, or did you hate them?
Oh no, I didn't hate them at all. I still very close to all of them this day. I just couldn't.
That's why we're so different.
Okay, so here's the question, and because you didn't name any names, how many of those guys are broke now? Not many of them. A couple of them are. See, and that's the other thing. So I saw the friends that I had for the previous 4 years that, were kind of fringe players in the NFL, and they jumped around from city to city to city and trying to make teams. And then back then they had NFL Europe, so guys were going overseas and then having to come back and not make it. They just prolonged the inevitable, and I didn't want to be in that boat. So I was fortunate to know some guys that had very successful long-term NFL careers, and they were very, let's just say, frugal. Good. That's good.
Yeah, I didn't have my friends. The friends that I was close with, they weren't the guys that had the entourages and the chains and hundreds of people following them around with no jobs, with employed and money. So,
see, because that's like back to the game this week. When I look at like an Edelman, I'm like, that dude came from like as a program like Northern Iowa, like it was something like that. And I'm like, dude's just maximized. He found the right coach with the right coordinator and the right quarterback, because he should not have had the career he had. And he's a superstar.
Yeah. If you see Edelman on the streets, you would never, ever imagine he was a professional football player.
Mm-hmm.
And he's made a successible career.
Even with the supermodel girlfriend? Would you go,
you
something's going on with this guy?
The girlfriend.
Maybe he's a venture capitalist.
Yeah,
exactly.
Let's talk about the smoke. The smoke that was here in pretty much the entire Pacific Northwest, starting really. The worst day was last Saturday, the Saturday previous to this one, when I remember waking up and my bathroom has a skylight. And it was still dark. It's still like 10 in the morning, because the smoke had just pretty much entirely covered up the glass. And then, Terry and you and I have spoken since then. But that Saturday, I could not do anything. Like I would just sit. I just sat on my couch and stared outside and wondered how long this apocalyptic view that I have is going to last. And it turned out it was.
In fairness, that's only 1 step
days
down from a normal Saturday for Zach, right?
That's right.
Yeah. It was good because I had an excuse. Well, I can't go running today because the smoke is making the air unhealthy. It's not my fault. really did. It affected my psyche. Something fierce. How was smoke life for you, Simone? Did it
It was
change anything about your behaviors? Did it wear on you?
Yeah, well, so the first week that the smoke came in, I was actually at the wildfires. And so I was in it. I went home every day. Can you guys hear me okay?
I got you.
Okay. I think Zach's video might be a little off. Anyway.
I'll give her 3 more seconds. There we go.
Zach, it's not me.
It's not me, it's
you.
you.
3 more seconds, Zach.
So where were you covering the fires at, Simone?
I was down in Sumner, Bonnie Lake, for the Sumner Grade Fire. And I was just spending like maybe 10 hours a day down at the fire. Everything smells, couldn't breathe. And I would get home and just put everything into the laundry.
All right, this is another good reboot that we're gonna have on Wednesday.
Can you text him, T. Holla?
That's what I'm
Let
doing.
him know that the other 3 people are live.
Okay.
I was hoping it wasn't me.
No, you good.
Well, that's the thing. Like when go ahead, Simone.
My head would hit the pillow at night and I would sleep so hard. And all I could think about was all of the firefighters that were out there doing it this whole time. I couldn't believe the 24-hour shifts that they pull, breathing in all that smoke all the time, and that they're able to just continue with that momentum, because I was exhausted. I couldn't breathe for most of it. And then this past week, weren't we all just getting, dragged on, feeling like, is this ever going to end? It made me think about what COVID and quarantine is going to be like in winter when we can't go outside.
It seems like I catch up. All right. You know what?
Yeah, I felt the exact same way. Ron, how did it affect you?
Well, I was feeling a little bit of that personal malaise stuff as I try to find the camera. And then I got in a text conversation with my friend Rich, whose parents' house was burned to the ground. And he was out there and they were searching through rubble to try to find his mom and dad's wedding ring and if they could salvage anything. And that immediately snapped my perspective, probably similar to what Simone was going through, where it's sort of I can't, make do whatever activity I was going to do. And it's like, holy crap, there are thousands of people that are sifting through their belongings right now, or having to flee and go, what do I take out of my house? We always say that at cocktail parties. What would you take if your house is on fire? And you go, oh, like my guitar that's sitting right back here, or whatever. But if your house was really going to burn down, that's a different deal, man. Yeah. If you really have to load up your car, which I've had to do once in my lifetime, it's a different deal.
Where did you do that at?
Hurricane Katrina.
Oh yeah.
And I totally underprepared. I did not bring enough stuff.
Yeah. Where did you go in Katrina? Because I was just thinking about Katrina the other day. And how
it was the 15th year anniversary. I grabbed a laptop and 2 changes of clothes, and then my all the animals, and went to Jackson, Mississippi. Wow. Which is lovely, by the way. If you ever need a vacation spot, Jackson.
Are you being serious? Or are you being
facetious? No, I'm not being serious at all.
I've been several times. I found nothing in Mississippi endearing.
Yeah, I feel for all those families. We used to evacuate a lot when I was growing up. I lived in Southern California. The fires came far more frequently than we would like. And it was just grab your files, grab the animals, and go. Yep. And, go into the hotel. I remember sometimes they would say, okay, you can come back now. We'd go back for a couple hours, and then the knock would come on the door again, like, sorry, you got to go again.
Yeah.
It's
Ron, what was one thing that you wish you had grabbed that you ended up losing?
Actually, I had all of our radio sound in my, that like a audio editing computer, all of our sound effects and, all the stuff that we used on our production elements for the show. And I put them up in a closet on the top floor of our house, up on the tall. So it was 21 feet above the ground, and the water went above that and took it all out.
Wow. Okay, so your whole home flooded.
Jeez.
Yeah. So, I mean, that was one. And then just other stuff like musical instruments and my high school yearbook. And you know what? I take that back on the high school yearbook. Sentimentally, you think you want your high school yearbook? I never looked at that thing. Screw it. I don't need my high school yearbook.
Nobody ever
That would that'd be a weird thing to do.
You know, the weirdest thing about
yearbook.
losing all your stuff is that you go back and then start replacing things multiple times. Like you go, this was back in the day, you'd like go and see a CD. It's like, oh, I love that CD. And then you'd buy it. And then like a week later, you'd see the CD and go, oh, I love that CD. And you'd come on, it's like, oh, I already bought that CD.
I already got that.
Right. Or then you'd go to look for something that you knew that you had that you no longer had. So it's like, oh, I need the thermometer. And you go, it's like, where's the thermometer? Where's the thermometer? And you don't have it anymore. But these folks that go through fire's a different deal. And Simone can probably talk about it more than I can. The devastation is of a different quality, I guess, because it's so random.
Yeah, like you don't expect it coming, and it just comes out of
Well,
nowhere.
it can burn down one side of the street, and the other side of the street's not burned down.
Well, the same thing with tornadoes, which I would never choose to live anywhere near a tornado area.
I did.
That terrifies me more than anything.
Yeah, I lived in Kansas City.
Okay.
And there's in the Midwest, in Missouri, and even more often Kansas, tornadoes just happen. And I remember the first night my wife and I were coming back from something, and it was torrential rain in Kansas City, and the tornado alarm is going off. And I've never heard anything as terrifying. Like, it's this citywide siren put in place to really just upgrade the panic level from 5 to 6, because there's no instructions attached with it. It's just like, we're going to let you know that everything that you might have.
There's instructions. You probably just were 2 bourbons in and didn't realize it.
No, you're supposed to go to a basement.
Right.
I don't know. I didn't have a basement. So
well, then you get in the bathtub and you put a mattress over you. Everybody knows that.
Well,
duh. No, I
always question the earthquake. I'm like, what am I supposed to do in an earthquake again? They say like the doorway, but not the doorway. And I don't know.
Yeah.
Get under the table and hope for the best.
It's just luck. It's really what it comes down to.
So I went to elementary school and junior high school and high school in Tornado Alley, man, where it was really going down in Arkansas and Texas, where we have real, it's the real deal. We have tornado drills. So I learned what to do in school, like in 5th grade. They taught us, they'd send the horn off in the city, and everybody get under your desk.
Right.
So we knew what to do.
Well, that'll save you.
Yeah, no kidding, right? I'll have a nice desk crammed on my back when they find me. Yeah.
Well, that's what they used to tell kids to do in case of nuclear war, too. So get under the desk has just always been the solution.
Little desks.
That though, it seriously always does help me in those situations, is to go what Simone said. Let me focus on the firefighters and be grateful that they're doing their thing. Let me focus for a minute on people that have really lost things, and maybe I can find somewhere I can donate or find somewhere I can support. And then my thing of like, oh man, I can't walk down to do my, walk to the leg. Then that seems a little less, of a blow to me.
Mm-hmm.
I get that, but there's a line from a TV show. I want to say it's Ally McBeal, but I also hope it's not Ally McBeal, where someone asks Ally, why are your problems more important than anybody else? And she says, because they're mine. So that's what I never,
right.
So I never feel bad, like just ruminating about my own life. Meanwhile, like heroes are out there actually putting out the problem.
Well, I do think like this year with COVID and everything else, I mean, you can only tell yourself this one thing for so long before you have to accept that it's a really hard time for everybody. Like, my family's been fortunate. We're all healthy. Obviously the economy impacts us in certain ways and what jobs are available for my spouse. But at the same time, I can be positive for so long, but I have to accept that this does wear on you. And even though you are lucky, it's still okay not to feel great.
Simone, I was going to ask you, how as someone who's out there in the field dealing with these, tragedies and all these things that are going on every day, like out there on the front line, how does it affect you, and how do you kind of decompress? How do you get away?
Yeah, sometimes it's not it's not very successful, honestly. This year's been one thing after another, and I actually just took the first step to go find someone to talk to about it, because this year has been a lot of compounding effects. I'll be honest, I watch trash TV.
Yeah.
I'll throw on some Real Housewives. Like, I'm not ashamed. And my husband used to make fun of me for it, and he realized sometimes I just need to go home, sit on the couch, and be like, for an hour, I'm going to let these people yelling at each other be my only problem.
Do you like Vanderpump Rules?
What's that?
Do you like Vanderpump Rules?
I have not gotten into it. My sister swears by it.
So did you hire like a professional counselor, or did you set up like a meeting with a friend where you guys can reveal how you're really doing?
No, I'm in the process of getting a counselor right now. Yeah.
That's awesome. I have a counselor as well. And then I also have a friend that we just say, hey, every Thursday we're going to get together and just check in on each other on a Zoom call.
You found that helped?
It has, because, one of us has to be vulnerable first, and then, as men, and then you open up. But I think talking about mental health and telling people to get help is meaningful. So I don't know who started it. I think maybe both of us like, hey, dude, let's just do a weekly Zoom call while this is going on. And we can just say, how's your work? How's the relationship? How's your kid doing? And we just check in on each other. And we still, razz each other and tell fart jokes and like we're 12 years old. But, we also take that moment to check in. It's nice.
Yeah. I have the same thing. I have the same group of friends. We check in from each other from time to time on a group text message thread. And when you get that random call, it's different to hear the voice and sometimes see the face on the FaceTime or the Zoom call. And it's been Zoom has been a blessing, man. Can you imagine? Like a year ago, did any of you know what Zoom was? Like,
I had no idea.
Never heard of it.
But to Zach's point, it is, you are aware of holding these two things where it's like, I'm grateful. And I think Simone referenced this. My life is relatively good comparatively. At the same time, you feel what you feel. And if you feel depressed or you feel like crap, doesn't matter how grateful you should be. That's how you're feeling.
Right. I agree.
That's the tough balance though, Ron, isn't it? Is that, and I think this year has sort of changed that, but there's the person that is truly honest about answering the questions, how are you, was kind of someone that I feel like most people would avoid. And I think that, just even based on the Zoom call you just described to us, that's kind of changed. People are truly interested in a real answer to how are you. It's not just part of, a small talk greeting.
Well, my takeaway on that is how for granted I took all of the little interactions. And I used to work with both of you and not with you, Simone, but the little 3-minute, thing. Hey, Terry, how's it going? Dude, I like your sweatshirt. Whatever it was. Like, hey, I remember you and I talked for 15 minutes one time about your new iPhone. And it was just a human interaction, but it made my day better. Nothing spectacular happened per se, or a song that we both liked, and we would riff on that, and we send a video back and forth, or what have you, and nothing life changing. But you add those up throughout the day, and you do that 5 or 6 times with 5 or 6 people you're fond of, and now that that's gone, I totally took those for granted, and what they added to my life.
I just went back to the station for the first time a couple of days last week to get ready for the Divide. And there's only a handful of people in there, but it was so great to see anybody that I worked with.
Yeah.
I love my coworkers, but some are more favorites than others, but it didn't matter. It was just so exciting to see people, and people were happy to see me. I was a new face from, March. So those little interactions, just being able to chat with people, check in. Oh, how are you? How's your family? How's your kids?
Especially if you're a hugger. Are any of you people huggers?
I like to hug. Yeah,
I do too, and that's totally gone. Like the elbow thing's getting old. So I just want to give you the
ridiculous.
Hug.
It's awkward.
What do you prefer?
What's that?
What do you prefer? What are you going to do?
Why do we have to touch each other to acknowledge that the other person is there? I never.
Oh, please.
Handshake.
I hate the handshake.
Well, but I'm a rodeo girl. Like, you shake everybody's hand, so it is the most uncomfortable thing especially I remember in the beginning, like politicians not shaking their hands. I was like, I don't know what to do right now.
Mhm.
I'm for the elbow bump. It's fine.
I feel ridiculous because like it's you have to line it up, and it's just like why do we have to touch one another to?
Because that's what human beings do.
Yeah, but you touch someone that you care about. Like the handshake is just it's right away. It's without saying a word to each other. It's how you first judge a person, supposedly. Like if you don't have a good firm handshake, then I'm going to be dismissive of you. That's crazy.
It's just part of our socialization, I think. There's some things we do in our life as part of our social culture that there is no explanation for. It's just what it is.
I can get into bowing.
Do that.
Bowing.
I think it's our social
bowing
norm.
is good when you travel through Asia. I like a good bow.
Yeah, I think bowing's kind of cool.
But I mean, obviously, science has proven your body releases endorphins and good, feelings when you have human contact.
Yeah,
unless you're Zach.
If you stick it out. Yeah, if you and now I hate handshakes even more. Just
that's what cigarettes and booze are for, Ron.
Just that's
the only contact I need.
That they're having endorphins released as I'm shaking their hand. Yucko.
Woo!
What a hugging thing for that.
What about what if we bring the high five back? Just full on.
High five never left.
What's that?
That's where all the germs are.
Like it's still against.
You got corona on your palm. I'm not touching your palm.
But that's not how we found out. That's not how corona is spread. It's mostly
maybe for you. Fake news.
Non-toucher.
Did any of you
really hokey? Like when I do the elbow touch, I'm like, hey,
yeah.
So there's
Terry gives a good man hug. I'll tell you that right now. Terry gives a real solid man hug.
I'm a man hug.
How's a man hug different?
Because Terry's like solid.
You're not facing each other.
He's not afraid to lean in and make it real.
Yeah,
right. Some people give you that real.
Giving you a hug.
See, look at you again. You judge.
Give you like the milk toast thing, like Terry. If Terry's coming in for a hug, you're getting a good, solid, feel good hug.
Maybe that person's only 30% into seeing you. Maybe they have a sore rib. Maybe they.
I appreciate a good Terry Holloman hug. Makes me feel hugged.
That's my brother right there.
Won't touch Zach. It'll be fine.
I'm not opposed to it. It's just this weird ritualistic thing that I never understood. I'm glad that I think that the handshake is probably gone forever, if not greatly diminished.
Zach, did your parents ever tell you they love you?
All the time with words.
I don't believe it.
Yeah, they did. And I'll hug my dad because it's my dad. It's not, and it's just a hug. Like it's not a man hug. It's just a father and son embrace because he spawned me and we care for each other.
I bet you can count those hugs on one hand. Yeah. Well, we hugged once in 1983 when I graduated from junior high. And we hugged one time when I broke my arm.
But if you hug all the time, the hugs become meaningless. It's like the Pledge of Allegiance. It means nothing if you say it every day. Just some things have to be special.
I hug my son 100 times a day, and they all mean the same thing.
That is awesome. That is awesome.
We were just
trying to be better
brought up differently. Did any of you ever, and Terry, this probably is a question more for you than anybody, because the only time I ever see this actually happen is mostly in sports. Do you ever have like a secret handshake with somebody?
Oh yeah.
That's a different level of crazy to me.
Oh yeah. One of the guys I talked about earlier, one of my ace spoon coon, Lawyer Malloy. We have a secret handshake.
Yeah. How complicated is it?
It's pretty complicated.
So that means you rehearsed it. That's always the weird thing to me.
We've done it for like 20 years though. It's not like we see actually
right. At this point, it. Just like, at this point, McCartney knows his entire catalog, but he had to rehearse the songs for a while too. With music, it makes sense. So did you were you after practice?
It was just,
You want to take out 20 minutes and just rehearse a handshake?
Dude, you haven't been around a lot of people of color, have you?
What's that?
You haven't been around a lot of people of color, have you? POC. That's part of the thing. Am I Terry?
Yeah.
I got a couple handshakes with different people.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's the thing, man.
There's also a lot of downtime in the locker room. What else? You gonna play cards, or you're gonna come up with a good handshake?
Cards.
One of two
Terry.
things, Simone. You gonna become a degenerate gambler, or you gonna handshake?
That's right.
Well, Terry, here's our secret handshake: both hands in the pockets. just nod at each
so
other.
funny.
Me and Zach.
That is funny.
And the final item that I want to get into tonight is the Department of Justice press release that was sent out earlier today, declaring Seattle and two other cities, Portland, Oregon, and New York City, as anarchist jurisdictions. And because of this declaration, they are threatening. I don't know the legality of this, but legality isn't really a problem for anybody anymore. You kind of just do it. It would then hold the purse strings a little bit tighter, and we wouldn't get the same federal funding. And I for when it comes to really a lot of issues, fixing the West Seattle Bridge being one of them. We'll just go around the horn, starting with Ron. Ron, are you proud to live in an anarchist jurisdiction, or are you worried for your safety?
I'm going to circle this back in a weird way to Sunday Night Football, because I think there were probably millions of Americans that have heard nonsense like this, and that talking about the Pacific Northwest as an anarchist zone and all of this rhetoric. And when you saw that drone footage over the water coming into downtown Seattle with the wheel and the stadium and the blue sky and the beautiful just downtown that we have here, I imagine that there were many people who were like, huh, that's a beautiful city. It doesn't look like anarchy to me. Like, I kind of want to go there now. That's lovely. So I think that, they're throwing every political, underhanded trick you can throw in these last 60 days before the election. That's just red meat to the base. And so I think it's much to do about nothing. I'm kind of anxious to see, or looking forward to seeing 10, 15 years down the road, when very smart historians go back and untangle all of this, and the Bob Woodwards of the world get to see all the hidden emails and docs and track stuff, like maybe people like Simone that do solid reporting on write the history of this. It's just going to be a laughing stock. So I don't put any stock in it at all.
Simone?
So I left my house today, and it was honestly the first thing I thought of. I live in West Seattle, so the bridge is near and dear to me. But I was driving away and driving through West Seattle and thinking to myself, oh, I live in an anarchist jurisdiction. And it felt really weird to me as I look around and think, I wonder if a lot of people are leaving their homes today thinking the same thing. This doesn't look any different than any other place. My point with this, and it's not the first time that they've tried to cut off federal funding, and it's been stopped in the courts. So, the likelihood of this really going through is not great at this point. It would be such a legal battle. But my point was specific to Seattle is this has to do with CHOP. It has to do with a very small area of town, which, by the way, I was at nearly every single day for work. But what are you holding the feet to the fire for? To break up CHOP? Because that already happened. Mm-hmm. So what's the expectation of Seattle at this point when you usually threaten pulling federal funding away from a state or city? It's because of something at the federal level that you feel is in violation that's happening there. Either the state passed a new law that you feel violates federal statute or federal protections, and you're trying to pressure that government to do something different. What is the pressure for right now? Because CHOP's over. And what are you left with? And we don't have the same protests even in Portland. And you didn't ever try to force federal agents into the streets out here, to which Seattle declined. That just didn't happen. So I just wonder what the expectation is beyond trying to label it a certain way and have this be coverage where the people that support the president and support law and order, if you will, are happy to see this happen after watching the vilification of Seattle, Portland, and others.
Yeah,
I think that is simply the goal. That's it. And there's people who for whatever reason, and I think we all know why the Trump administration is doing this, trying to portray these Democrat-run cities as anarchy zones, just to point out the supposedly weakness of these Democrat leaders. That's the intention of this, and damn it, it's going to work. Because I remember when people were literally concerned with my safety being out here as I was sitting in a park along South Lake Union, like, wow, you must be scared living in Seattle because of the footage that they were ingesting via not even Fox News. CNN was airing a lot of it as well, and that sort of branding drives them to the right because they're scared. And Trump's shows them this footage and says the suburbs are next, and that's what he's trying to do. Terry?
Anything I would say would be to echo everything that's already been said. You're talking about the riots and the looting that took place in Seattle. It was for a relatively short period of time and in a relatively small area of space. And for people on the outside looking in, none of us that were outside of that vicinity were in any imminent danger at all. And as far as the city of Seattle being a haven for anarchist behavior, sure, Seattle has our own set of issues, our own set of challenges, but to call it an anarchist zone or an anarchist jurisdiction, I think it's just so ridiculous. And again, like Ron said, it's just red meat for a base. Is to create a caricature of Seattle and the people of Seattle across the country, to think that we are some kind of lawless, wild rogue, like Bane from Batman has taken over the city, and there's and all this craziness is going on. And
well, how thick is the irony that Washington D.C. is on the list?
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Yeah,
I know, and I it's just insane, Ron. I mean, I'm thinking back to when the president said that he tried to downplay the pandemic because he didn't want to cause a panic. Well, when you label these cities, like major cities in a country, as anarchist zones, what does that do? Does that not incite panic in everyone? Like, if I think that there's anarchy going on in some city that I don't visit, I don't regularly travel to, I think that's crazy. I need to do something.
I love it. I love being in an anarchist jurisdiction. I'm so proud.
There would be any kind of legs if there was a point behind it, if there was something they were trying to achieve, some political pressure. Especially here, I just don't get it.
Well, re-election, that's what they're trying to achieve. Just re-election. Trump has he doesn't care if this actually goes through. It's not. I doubt it'll even be pushed forward in any sort of meaningful way. He just wanted this. He wanted this press release set out today.
Like, what is the legality of it? Does anybody know? Does anybody have any clue? Like, I know nobody here is a lawyer, but
yeah. No, but I was looking back, and they tried to strip federal funding in the past for places with sanctuary policies, and that was largely blocked in the courts as well. Like I said, this is a tool. This is a tool when at the head of the federal level, you feel like somewhere in the country they're not doing something correct, but it has to be really straight and narrow for you to be able to get it through. And
it's normally with education. Schools lose federal funding all the time because they don't follow some sort of guidelines.
Yeah. But what's funny too is that I read somewhere that we're actually one of those places in Seattle where we provide more federal funding than we take. So I'd have to go back and get the citing for that. So I would never say this on Q13.
You won't tell anyone.
I'm making sure that I have my eyes dotted.
It sounds right, which is good enough for us.
Absolutely, I'll second that.
We'll wrap around. I'll tweet something.
Don't let a fact get in the way of a good point. That's what I would say.
But when they say about like taking federal funding away from places, it's like, this isn't your money too. And like I said, this is something that both parties do. But, we're going to take your federal funds away. And it's like, this is something that everybody provides. This is the taxpayers' money. So it's just interesting.
I got a question for you guys. I mean, real quick, but while we're on this subject, and it's not I don't want to be a Debbie Downer. I actually want to see if anybody has any positive outlook on this. Do you think we'll ever get back to being unified again? I mean, we are so entrenched and we are so dug in on both sides to the extremes. Like, I think that's all we get exposed to. I don't know if the average everyday person is just dug in like that. I know I can tell that we're probably getting closer to that. But do you think we get back to a unified America?
I don't watch. There's a new documentary called The Social Dilemma. It's on Netflix right now. And it talks about social media is optimized for profit, not for truth. And so as long as that is the status quo, it will continue. If Terry Holloman is clicking on conspiracy videos, it's going to continue to serve up conspiracy videos to you because that means money to the algorithm. Doesn't care what the content is. And so saying, you know, so that as long as that's the model of information dissemination, then no, it will continue to divide.
And I don't see why anything would change. I mean, social media is not going anywhere. If anything, we'll just have a more intrusive version of it to replace whatever we're using now, and a more divisive version of it. So I don't. We were never really a unified country, but certainly it's not as bad. Right? I don't remember the '90s being like this.
So maybe we're just exposed to everything at a much greater level. Even news networks, you know, we used to just sit down and watch the evening news, and we had it nicely packaged in 30 minutes. And now you hear 24 hours of content and people yelling at each other on the television as well. And so it's a much different absorption of information. I don't think that we were ever this real unified country. I think of one time, and hopefully that never happens again, and that was 9/11.
Yeah.
And that's the one time I can think of where we really felt that unity. But no, I hear politicians talk about decades past, and they bring up the types of divisions that they were experiencing at the time that maybe we just weren't privy to as we sat at home. So I think the division continues.
Oh, we all have voices. You know, if you were angry about an issue, you had to write a letter to the editor and send it to the newspaper, and they may or may not publish it. If you didn't do that, you told the 6 people in your life, and that's as far as it went. You know, now you put out a tweet if you're upset about something, and that things just spreads. So while it's good for everyone to have a voice, it just means that everyone feels like their voice has to be louder because they're competing with so many others now. And you know, maybe this is just the way our country evolves. We'll all just kind of get used to it.
Sometimes there's a part of me that wishes I could go back to where I didn't know. Sometimes where I didn't know what some of the people that are in my life thought about certain subjects. Sometimes I wish I was in the dark. Sometimes I'm glad I know, but sometimes I wish I was like, you know, in the Matrix and I didn't take that pill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's, you know, the beauty of innocence. Man, didn't want to end up like this.
Nice ending. Way to bring it home.
Seriously, sorry.
Hey, guess what? I'm getting a puppy.
Holy shit. There we go. That's the kind of news that we need.
October 1st.
Well, you teased something at the top of the show, the last show. What's the tease? Bring it back home.
Well, the tease is that you have to watch the next show.
Oh, jeez.
We don't
I'm out.
See something and then immediately deliver it.
Okay, so what kind of puppy then?
Yeah.
I'm getting a Rottweiler puppy.
Nice.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. My whole family's excited about it. I wasn't going to be excited about it at first because I had a dog for 14 years, almost 15 years, and just lost her about a year and a half ago.
Oh, man. Yeah.
So, but I'm back. I'm back in the game. I got a new coming, so I'm excited.
Yeah. What, do you have a name picked out yet, or?
Yeah, I wasn't in charge of that. The dog's name is Mila. I have 4 kids.
Yeah. That's a great thing for you to be able to do.
Yeah, my dog's name.
Nothing excites me more about parenthood than being able to name another human. That's amazing. Like, it's just all downhill from there. It's just I get to name a human. That's thrilling.
That's what I'm done with human, so,
Kraken Burns.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Terry, I'll talk to you again on Wednesday. Simone, great to meet you.
Great to meet you. Thanks for having me. Have me on again.
Yeah, we definitely will. I love you on Q13. Great job on the divide, you know.
Thank
you. Ron and Don from ronanddonsitdown.com. Thanks, buddy. Always fun to see you, man.
Bet. All right, I'm out. See you
Ron,
guys.
See you all Wednesday.
Simone?
Bye.